Hi, I'm Kurt Mitchell and welcome to the Randy Rhoads tape. We're going to pick the selection Crazy Train for this video. It's a classic song. It's their first hit. It's the first we ever heard of Randy on the radio. Randy's a legend. There is no getting around it. These songs, both of these albums with Randy on them, every song has become unfortunately instantly legendary because of his passing. And the thing about Randy is he was always striving above all the rock star stuff and all the press that he got with Ozzy's new stuff and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Always striving to be a better guitarist. It was at the heart of what it was that he did. He was always trying to achieve new tones, always putting in parts. I had the fortune of working with Max Norman, who produced the first two Ozzy records, and on the last record I did, and we got talking about him a few times, and he said Randy was always sticking little parts in here and there. He was always striving for some little piece to put in to make the song that much better. Always, he was always doing that. He'd work himself silly coming up with new parts and better riffs and played classical guitar. He was one of the best guitar players that ever lived. And there really is nothing more to be said. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to tune our guitars. Okay, we're tuned to 440 now, so you can go ahead and take your tuner if you have a tuner. It's best to have a tuner. It's easier anyways. And tune your guitar up to ordinary standard pitch. He's not tuned down at all in this particular song. We're going to tune our guitars. I'm going to give you an A. You tune the rest of your strings to your A. You come back, check your A against mine, tune the rest of your strings, and we'll move on. Then we're going to trace our signal chain. Then we're going to get on with the song, okay? So let's tune up. Now let's trace our signal chain. We're going to start with the guitar. The guitar is a Warmoth body and a Warmoth neck that I'm playing. More importantly is the fact that we have a humbucking pickup in the bridge position. Okay? Randy used to use an array of foot pedals that plugged into his amp. He used to use a combination of stock of 100-watt heads and master volume 100-watt heads. And he used a flanger and phaser and all kinds of different things. Much like old Eddie Van Halen style stuff. Let's take a look at the amplifier we're using right now on the stomp box I'm using for distortion, because I'm using a master volume 100-watt and a little stomp box to give it an extra gain. He used to use an MXR stomp box, which was a much more buzzier sound, but I like these other stomp boxes quite a bit better. They have more tone to them. Let's go take a look. The Marshall we're using is a 100-watt master volume. In other words, it has a preamp that runs the gain up quite a ways. We got almost everything dimed except the low end on it. The distortion I'm using is a super overdrive. The thing is, these heads don't quite have enough gain to them unless you have them modified, and then they sound differently. So we're using the super overdrive to kick in a little bit more distortion and give it a buzzier sound. And then we're running into a board. We got some reverb and a little bit of delay to sound doubled, okay? Because mainly, Randy used to put a lot of tracks on his tracks. In other words, he used to record his guitar 3 or 4 or 5 times. So in order to compensate for that with one single sound, we put a little bit of delay on it and sort of pan it to the right. And it comes out sounding pretty close. Okay? Let's get to section 1 of the song, Crazy Train. Here's section 1. It intros with a harmonic thing that we're going to fade in, and then slides down into section 1. So here it is. One more time. Here's section 2, A, B. One more time. Here's section 2, AC. Again. Here's section 2, AD. Once again, here's section 2, A, B, and D, D being the turnaround into the pre-chorus. Here we go. Here's section 2, A, E. One more time. Here's section 3, the pre-chorus, end 1, section 3, end 2. Here we go. This is the pre-chorus. Once again. Here's section 4, the chorus with end 1 and riff 1. One more time. Here's riff 1, real slow. Section 4, end 2. Once again. This is section 5, AB. This is the bridge that leads you back into the verse. Randy was doing something here way up on by the nut. He's scraping notes and getting these real high harmonics. And the harmonics sound like this. About right there at the 3rd fret. Okay? Let's get it. 5AB. This is the bridge. This is what it sounds like. Here's 5AB. One more time. Section 6. One more time. Let me show you this chord up close. This particular section, section 6, is exactly like all the other verses except for this harmonic thing. Let me play this whole thing for you real slow. I'll go through these chords that he's sliding around. There's these 2 chords he's sliding around. They're pretty easy to play. Let me show them to you note at a time. Okay? Here's the E chord that he's using in the same position that he slides down to a D. Anyways, here's the E chord as an inversion. And he slides it down 2 frets. Then he hits the A. Okay? So the whole thing quite a bit slower is like this. Let's move on. Remember that, like I said, Randy was in the studio and he multi-tracked all this stuff. In other words, he'd play the same part over and over and over again, exactly the same part. Then split them into stereo, and you have this big, huge sound coming out of one guy. Now, when you're by yourself, in a live situation or a situation like I'm in right now, you don't have the ability to do that. There's no multi-tracking machines laying around for us to do that with. So this is riff number 2, by the way. I'm going to turn on this digital delay and I'm going to put just a hair of slapback on it, and it gives you that kind of feel as this thing climbs up, because he makes a total mess of this riff with 3 or 4 parts, and it's an extremely unique sound. Here's riff 2, digital delay, slapback, very tight slapback. If you look down here at this pedal, it gives you that feeling of an old Elvis tune, one of those old bebop tunes, but it's not going to sound like that. It's going to sound like this. Riff number 2. This is just a pull-off pattern. He just slides that whole thing up the fretboard. Okay? One more time slow. Section 7. One more time. This is the rhythm behind the solo, section 8 and 1. One more time, a little slower. Section 8 and 2. And again. One more time. Section 2 of the solo. One more time. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to right-handed hammer again, only we're going to use our pick this time, okay? So we sweep into this thing and then jab our pick there as fast as we can. It's easier, it's faster if you do it with your pick for some reason. It's easier to just sit there and sort of shake and freak out and make it go really fast, okay? So here's section 3 of the solo. And section 4 of the solo. Once again, how about the run real slow? Here's section 3 and 3, and section 3 and 4, okay? Once again. Riff 3, same thing with the delay, a little slap back delay, okay? Done multi-times. Here we go, riff 3. Once again. Here's section 9. Just a little bit slower here. A few performance tips on this song. A lot of mids and a lot of distortion in your sound. If you want to get it and try to be by yourself as a guitar player and do it. The delay on the stuff that's doubled real bad. A lot of blues riffs with classical inflections, okay? The beginning riff, the main opening riff, you play them all downstroked, right? Play them sort of in the middle of your pick, or of your picking area, I should say, down here towards the middle.